On the roof of a wooden house swallowed by floodwaters, three grown dogs huddled tightly together. The raging river was just inches below the roof's edge. But what stunned the rescue team wasn't how they had managed to survive the storm for days. It was the small blue plastic box between them, the thing they took turns guarding, even as the wind and rain battered them. Stay until the end of this video to discover what was inside that box and why it brought an entire town to tears. Our story begins in Greenville, a small town in the American South. George Miller, 62, a retired auto mechanic, lived alone on the edge of town. Quiet, kind, and deeply fond of animals, George often lent a hand during emergencies. Though his health had grown weaker with age, he still drove his small truck whenever storms came, helping neighbors and strangers alike. After 3 days of relentless rain, the Black River burst its banks. Families were being evacuated in a rush. George, paddling a rescue boat with a group of volunteers, spotted something unusual in the distance. A rooftop barely above the floodwater, its peak the only part visible. And on it, 3 drenched dogs, trembling, clustered around a plastic box. One volunteer shook his head. Not worth the risk. The current's too strong, and it's far from the relief point. We have to focus on people first. George looked at the dogs, then at the swirling current. He knew one slip could capsize the boat. But the look in those desperate eyes was like a silent plea. Don't leave us behind. Just as George prepared to turn away, one of the dogs nudged the box toward the roof's edge, as if trying to show him something. For a brief second, the lid popped open. Inside was a small blanket and a faint cry that was definitely not a dog's. George froze, his heart tightening in his chest. "There's another life in there," he whispered. He knew in that instant he couldn't walk away. Ignoring the warnings, George dug his oar into the current and steered the boat straight toward the roof. Waves slammed the sides. Wind lashed at his face, but he didn't slow down. As he reached the house, the 3 dogs barked furiously, standing guard over the box. George lifted each one into the boat, then carefully opened the lid. Inside lay a tiny white kitten, soaked to the skin, eyes shut tight, barely breathing. From the riverbank, the other volunteers gasped. "Dogs saving a cat? In the middle of a flood? I've never seen anything like it." A young woman rushed forward, wrapping the kitten in her coat. But the 3 dogs kept looking back at the roof, as if terrified that someone was still left behind. Just as they were about to leave, George noticed a dark gap beneath the roofline. He leaned closer, and his breath caught. There, trapped with her paw wedged between the beams, was a mother dog, weak and exhausted. It became clear, before collapsing, she had pushed her 3 pups and the kitten onto the roof, staying below to shield them from the crashing waves. George and the team freed the mother dog and carried her to safety. All 5 lives were brought to the rescue center. The story of Greenville spread quickly, about a dog family that not only saved one another, but also protected a different species. Weeks later, George adopted the entire family. He built a warm kennel in his backyard, poured milk for the kitten each morning, and stroked each dog with quiet gratitude. Because he knew, on that day in the flood, those animals had saved more than just themselves. They had saved a part of his heart. But if you think this was the most miraculous story, you haven't heard about Man Gives Stray Puppy Bread. But the puppy's next move brings everyone to tears. Don't miss the video next to this one and see why the whole world wept for that little dog.